Welcome to my channel to everyone who's new here, and of course to those of you who are back again, great to have you here. Bitcoin is currently trading at 112,620 US dollar. In this video we will take a look together at possible scenarios for the price development of Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP and Solana. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. And if you also want to trade with cheap fees, then I can recommend you the crypto exchange mexc, which has the lowest taker fees and maker fees on the market in my opinion. Also has a huge trading volume, and you can already see it. Bitcoin is currently in an event where you can trade Bitcoin without any kind of fees. So check it out. The link is in the description. So what did we say about Bitcoin? What happened? So we were thinking something like maybe we are not going to see the 110,300 US dollar as a retest. Maybe we go straight up into the box, sell off into the 110,300 US dollar, and afterwards get a new all-time high, which should direct us into a price area of 120,000 to 125,000. I can show you that real quick on the weekly time frame. We have set here cup and handle formatation. Target is going to be the 124,000 US dollar for Bitcoin. So if we go back into the 50 minutes time frame, then we can also see that we kind of formed our first bearish pattern on the chart. The thing is, yes, we are going to form far more bearish patterns for sure, but as long as we don't break them to the downside, and we have to break the 110,840 US dollar at the moment to the downside, and then this bearish pattern is going to get activated. So it doesn't matter what we are going to do here, as long as we don't break to the upside, to the downside, then we are still bullish. The only concern which I have is that we get with every push some significant amount of fair value gaps. Here you can see it, for example, a fair value gap. Here another fair value gap. And the thing with that is, yes, it is bullish. Why that? Because, we are still tending up. It means we push and we don't close the fair value gap 100%. We still have this one, but we are so bullish that we just form another one. And yes, it can happen again. It can go like this all the time. But I would still be careful because we are now in all-time high areas. In an all-time high area, and whenever we get into all-time high area, what does it mean? Everyone who's in a long position or has spot bitcoins is in profits. What are people going to do with profits? For sure they are going to sell. Maybe they didn't sell at the last all-time high, then they thought, okay, this time I'm not doing the mistake, I'm taking profits right now. And it can happen anytime soon. That's why I would be careful. I have here the resistance box. Yeah, it is resistance because first of all we have the psychological marks of 112,500 US dollar and 115,000 US dollar. We also have here on the weekly time frame a trend line which connects all the all-time highs with each other. Yeah, we can make it a bit longer and let's see where it's going to go. So like this should work, but also keep in mind this trend line is going to be wrong by a few thousand. Yeah, don't expect that this trend line is very precise. It's not possible on the weekly time frame. Anyway, here the upside is 115,500 US dollar, maybe even plus minus 1,000 US dollar. Like I said, I can't be precise on the weekly time frame. Anyway, we are getting our first bearish chart pattern. We are currently in all-time high areas and in my opinion in a box where we can get rejected anytime soon. I would be a bit careful. With Bitcoin, and we will talk about Ethereum right now because Ethereum looks also like, yeah, we have the push to the upside. Looks good. But is it going to be good if I'm in a long position right now? I think no, because we have a fair value gap lower than us down to 2,670 US dollar. It also looks like that this can develop as a double top pattern. I don't want to count this as a head and shoulders formatation somehow. Yeah, it would still work, but I don't want to do it. Anyway, I think that we are going to close the fair value gap down to 2,670 US dollars. So keep that in mind, that we first get another pullback, which can be afterwards used for another long entry. That's why I don't want to jump into an Ethereum long position right now. We didn't have our chance to long Ethereum with my setup. Maybe you have a better one at home. I wasn't able to long Ethereum. So I'm basically waiting. I'm waiting for another entry possibility. And I would like to see one if we get into the fair value gap, we close that fair value gap, and then I see something like a double bottom pattern or in a kind of falling wedge, which we afterwards break to the upside where we have a trend line, and then I can long it once we break it to the upside. So I can't say more about Ethereum beside 2,856 US dollar. If they break to the upside, then I would be very positive for Ethereum. And then I can say with quite a high chance we are going to see a push which should go very fast up to 3,000 US dollar, where we have another fair value gap. And you can already see it 3,500 US dollar up to 3,800 US dollar. There you can find a fair value gap, and the last one at 4,333 US dollar. And I think that the liquidity has to go from Bitcoin. You can already see it. Bitcoin is at its all-time high. Where is Ethereum? It is far away from its all-time high. But if Bitcoin is going to sell off, something unique can happen. And this is like people realizing their profits for Bitcoin, and they reinvest their profits into the altcoins. And I think the first altcoins which should profit from that are Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. Those are the large caps from the altcoins. And afterwards it goes to the smaller, like not directly into the small caps, but it always in smaller caps, like from the large caps into the mid caps and afterwards into the small caps. And then we might even see an altcoin season, but I don't think that this altcoin season is going to be like the past ones. I think this time it is still profitable. It is still possible to be profitable this time with a good amount of percentages, but we won't see Ethereum by 10,000% profit. Yeah, we won't see that, in my opinion. But anyway, 2,850 US dollar, if they break to the upside, then it would be very positive to me. We are still having a half in half head and shoulders formatation. Yeah, this is the left shoulder. This can be the head, but for that we have to sell off into the 2,477 US dollar, get a bounce here, and then we have a bearish chart pattern which can break to the downside. And yeah, we have to track this one. Still looks good to me as long as we hold everything and break to the upside. So what about XRP? XRP is breaking out even more. We have said that over the $2.36 right here, XRP is long. We got our breakout, we got our retest. Target was the $2.43 because there was a fair value gap, but we can also get into the $2.48. If we break the $2.48 to the upside, and it looks like that we are going to break it to the upside. Yeah, I expect that we are going to push and afterwards get a retest, and in the retest I want to jump into a long trade. Why? Because we just have a fair value gap right here, but you can't see any kind of significant fair value gap lower than that. I don't count this one as a significant fair value gap. So basically, in my opinion, XRP is safe to trade, but I want to see the retest first as a confirmation that we push. Not in the next hours, but we should be very soon in the area between $2.71 to $2.85. There is the fair value gap, the bigger one. This is a significant fair value gap which should get closed soon. And with the breakout over $2.48, which we are seeing right now, the chances are very good that we should see that price area maybe in a couple of days. We don't know. XRP is always a coin for itself. Sometimes it's doing 30% its percentage, 50% its pushes within 1 hour. Let's get surprised with it. Everything looks good. Like I said, I want to see the breakout and the retest. Then it's long to me. If we should lose for some reason the $2.48 to the downside, then the $2.36 are going to be support. And this support has to hold. Otherwise, I would say maybe we can even drop again into $2.03, where we have a fair value gap. But this should just be a higher low on the bigger chart, like this one. And then we should continue getting higher prices. But it looks so good to me that we should push to the upside very soon. So what about Solana? So we have said about Solana, breakout, retest, long. Here was a small mistake because the $158.25, they weren't perfect resistance. You can see it. Here we got a candle close over it, but we sold off. Here we got a breakout attempt, but we sold off. So there are two options. The first option is my resistance is wrong. So if we look into the 4-hour chart, then I actually would like to say it looks very good with 1 touch point, 2 touch points, here several touch points, here a touch point, here touch points, and also here. So everything looks good to me. Or the second option is we have something different in play. And yes, I took my long position, and yes, I closed it with a small loss, which isn't a big deal. I took my long position right here because I was thinking this is the breakout candle, this is just the retest, and afterwards we should continue getting higher prices. This wasn't the case. We sold off. So I closed my position right here when I saw, okay, we lost the support. But now, what can it be? It can just be a bull flag. So this is the push, and this is the consolidation within a bull flag. And we are so close to break it to the upside. So instead of taking my trade at $158.25, I would take mine if we break the $159.10 to the upside. Then I'm going to get long again for Solana. And you can already see it. The target is going to be $164 to $166 US dollar. So this is a potential of 3.3% to 4.5% for Solana with the long trade, and also keep in mind without leverage. So I think everything looks good to me at the moment. I also see that Bitcoin is currently at 113,250 US dollar. And look, we have talked about our first bearish chart pattern, and the bearish chart pattern is worth nothing if it's not breaking to the downside. So we broke it to the upside. I can take this pattern out. I would still keep that orange support trend line, but I would just make it white. This is the most sharpest uptrend line which I see at the moment. I don't see a sharper one. So basically, even if that trend line breaks to the downside, it doesn't mean that we are going to sell off a lot. This can just be the first indication here we have to see and compare it to other chart patterns. So if we see some kind of, let's assume we push to the upside and get something like this, a double top pattern, then we can say, okay, this might be the first indication that we get a bigger move to the downside. But as long as it's not happening, then we can still sell here off and still push to the upside. Yeah, this is just an indication that even the sharpest trend didn't break to the downside. Means we have far more upside potential. And if it's going to continue, then we can instantly go to 120k. So with that said, let's see what Bitcoin is going to do. It's going to push the altcoins as well. But it's not that the altcoins are going to do some immense price movements to the upside, because the Bitcoin dominance is still pushing. I would still say it's positive that we have said this is a falling wedge, which is a bullish chart pattern, we broke it to the downside. So we invalidated that pattern. Now we have to see where the Bitcoin dominance wants to go, because we have here support, for example. This is what I see right now without looking a lot into it. With the fair value gaps over us, yeah, I know I don't want to take fair value gaps in the Bitcoin dominance, but it's still possible that we are going to get to 65% before we sell off. And if the Bitcoin dominance is dropping, then the altcoins hopefully gets a nice push where they outperform Bitcoin by far. See you in the next update.